Meeting to order for the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission on Thursday, January 9th, 2025. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any public comments? And if it has to do with a particular project that's on our agenda, you need to hold those comments until we get to that project. There being none. No extension request. Oh, election of officers.
I'd like to nominate Sharon Dobson to continue on as chairman.
We have a second.
Second.
Any other? How about we need a vice chair?
Do you want to do a slate or
We can do a slate.
like chair, vice chair, secretary? No, secretary.
I'd nominate Tom Lee to be vice chair.
Second.
And who's secretary now? And Kathy Dew is the secretary.
Second. Okay. Any other?
John. I'd nominate John Shelton for clerk. Second.
Second.
Any other? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You opposed, Mr. Tillman?
I think it was an aye.
Yes, I am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I believe we
Can we
have.
get clarity on that, Mr. Tillman? What
Yeah.
was your vote? Were you an aye or a nay?
I'm an aye.
There we go.
Okay.
That's unanimous.
Okay. Updates, legislation and legal matters. Can we do something with this heat?
I'm trying to get between people getting out of a ditch.
We're breeding germs at the moment.
It's a little warm.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Amy Mordock, Planning Director. I have a few brief updates. I know we have a really long agenda, so I won't go into too much detail. Last month I missed the meeting because I was attending Winter Mako, and I just want to give you some exciting news about Winter Mako. Queen Anne's County featured prominently. Our County Commissioner, Jack Wilson, will now serve as the president of Mako, starting at the Winter Conference 2024 into the year of 2025. Very excited to work under his leadership with Mako. He is dedicated to strengthening collaborations between counties, to work across political lines, which is going to be extremely important during this legislative session. So I think his term is very well timed for the state and for Queen Anne's County. But in other exciting news, a very well-deserved nod to our warden, Lamont Cook. He was honored by Mako for all of his years of service, over 50 years of involvement with Mako. Every year there is an award granted. It's called the Mako County Professional Recognition Award. And it's an award that is given to a county representative who has accomplished a lot of goals and worked with Mako to collaborate. And this year and moving forward, that award will be named the Lamont Cook County Service Award. So that's a wonderful honor. It's a wonderful honor for anyone who receives the award to be affiliated with Lamont Cook. And this year, the first award winner was Shelley Heller, who is the county administrator in Kent County, and they just so happened to be neighbors, so it was pretty nice. So Mako was very good this year. There was a focus on the upcoming legislative session, which has now begun. And the message that we heard loud and clear, and we already know, will be that there will be a lot of land use focus. So there are some draft bills that have already dropped. I won't go into great detail about those, but I will be keeping you up to date. There are a lot of bills focused on housing, solar, transmission line siting, data centers, and of course solar. I've seen some draft language to further regulate short-term rentals, but everything is in draft formation, and I don't know where they'll land. But one thing I do know is that there is a lot of language that is already focused on preempting local zoning. So this is something that the Mako Planners Affiliate will be directly involved in, and I will be keeping you up to date. You may hear about a bill that is moving forward through Secretary Flora of the Maryland Department of Planning. This bill is positive. She is proposing to update our 12 visions that we're required to address in our comprehensive plan by modernizing them, streamlining them, and renaming them into the 8 planning principles rather than the 12 visions. So there was some talk about what that really means, but in my opinion, that's a positive update to streamline those visions. Otherwise, I have a couple of personnel announcements, and the first is that Associate Planner Doug Summers has been promoted to the position of County Planner. He's been with us almost 3 years and has been an invaluable member of the team since he's begun. One of his strengths is environmental planning review, and we're going to kind of bake that assignment into his promotion so that he'll be liaising with other departments and making sure that the environmental planning reviews are coordinated. And also, on the 28th of January, I'll be giving a departmental update before the county commissioners. And this year, I will be featuring our citizen self-service portal planning team, which is comprised of members of staff on the planning and zoning end. Our online building permit portal went live on the 21st of October, and the team worked very hard to establish the portal and work out any quirks before we went live, and really it's been going very smoothly. Obviously, there are always snags with a new system, but the team working on the system has expertly navigated and corrected any of the problems. Citizens can register for accounts and see all of their permitting information, can submit permits online. A lot of people still like to come into the office for customer service, face-to-face applications. But there is an option to completely submit online, and that's been going very well. So
How many have you had?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, several or
Oh, no.
A handful or-
Probably at least 100 or more, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
no, it's rolling. It's not as fulsome as I know it will be eventually as more and more people
If
learn
and when
about
we
it.
could start building again.
Yeah, and have experience, yes. But anyway, that staff will be featured at that meeting, so if you want to tune in and learn a little about, they're putting a presentation together with statistics to share with the county commissioners, and so they've done a wonderful job and deserve that recognition. So it's been a long time coming. That's all I have. The 28th of January. Well, I think we're on the agenda at 5:45.
Mr. Summers, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, public hearings. Any public comment? Let's start with the concept plan for Bylaw Materials LLC.
So first, Madam Chair, if I could read the public hearing notice
Oh,
into the
okay.
record.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the county file reflects that the property was posted and the public hearing was duly advertised on December 27th and January 3rd in the Record Observer and Bay Times, notifying the public of the time and location of the hearing and a summary of the application, a copy of which notice is included in the county file.
Byler Materials LLC. Mr. Johnson. Good morning.
You want us up here yet, or?
You can come up and sit down, and Mr. Johnson will give his presentation first.
Good morning, Happy New Year. Steve Johnson, Planning and Zoning. As stated, we're here to discuss project SP 24-04-0125 for Byler Materials. He's proposing a 19-acre expansion of an existing major extraction operation and is requesting concept plan approval and favorable recommendations to the Board of Appeals. Project's located northeast of Ingleside, just south of Barkley. More specifically, tax map 31, parcel 44, tract 1, totals 348.343 acres and is located at 2251 Goldsboro Road in Barkley. In December, the operation received its annual inspection and was found to be in compliance with no violations. Property zone agricultural, major extraction is a conditional use in the ag zoning district. Here's a look at the concept plan. Access is taken via Merritt Corner Road, shown here circled in yellow. The LOD for the project, total LOD for the project is 119.865 acres. This includes areas of previous approvals and the 19-acre expansion area shown here in dashed red. The applicant is proposing a total of 12.10 acres of impervious and no new floor area. The operation will continue to comply with all required mining setbacks, and existing haul and access roads will be utilized. There's no new water and sewer proposed for the expansion, and 1,956,227 cubic yards of material will be removed in 5.7 years as part of this operation. That equates to an annual material removal rate of 343,200 cubic yards. And the finished depth of this mine will be 70 feet. Property is not within the critical area or 100-year floodplain. There are no erosion hazard streams, wetlands, or threatened or endangered species on site. There are 41.08 acres of woodlands on site, of which the applicant will clear 1.44 acres. Shown here in the hatched brown and white that you see on your screens, a little really thin line. That is the existing vegetative screening buffer for the existing operation. And all operations of this sort are exempt from forest conservation. Again, the existing evergreen screening buffer will be removed. You can see it in the background of the picture on the left. The applicant is proposing no new buffer at this time, as the western boundary of the expansion is over 2,400 feet from Route 313 and is not easily visible. And the applicant also intends to make application for larger Phase 5 expansion within 12 months, which will include the construction of berms along the property lines. The pictures that I'm going to show in the next few slides are from a visual impact exhibit that was provided in your packets. This first picture on the left here shows that the dredge that they're utilizing to pull material out will be below grade and not visible. The next three pictures are taken from the western side of Route 313. This picture is approximately 2,400 feet from the expansion area. This is approximately 2,400 feet as well from the expansion area. And this is 2,700 feet from the expansion area. If you look kind of just above the field there, you can see the small evergreens in front of the larger trees. That is the visual screening buffer that will go away. The applicant is proposing no changes in the hours of operation. I'm not going to go through these. This was pulled directly from the site plan and was laid out in the staff report. They have provided a sound study which indicates that daytime noise levels will be met and nighttime will be met, subject to standoff distances outlined in the report and at the staff report. There is a condition at the end of the staff report regarding this requirement. Trucks will continue to utilize the existing haul route, which consists of Merritt Corner Road and Maryland Route 313. It's shown here in dashed black. The Department of Public Works and State Highway have offered no objection to the approval of the project. And finally, the end use for the operation will be a 90.47 acre pond with a residence. And with that, I will try to answer any questions or turn it over to the applicant.
How much nighttime work do they do?
A couple hours, 2 hours in the morning.
Hours, roughly. And it's just a dredge operation, not loading and trucks and things of that nature, just a dredge operating the plant.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay.
Madam Chair, Stephen Meehan for Merrick Farm and Byler Materials. I just want to introduce Jonathan Byler. We have Sean Callahan here from Lane Engineering to take any questions, if you all have any questions. Sean, why don't you come on up? And also Chad Walters is here from Merrick, along with Al Scott, who's the facility manager.
Okay.
Sean, why don't you just provide a quick overview and then take any questions?
Commissioners, Steve told you what the project is. It's a minor expansion, 19 acres there outlined in red. There is a larger project that we had submitted to the county, which involves, a lot more to talk about. This is sort of a stopgap measure while we work out other matters on the property for the larger project. The project's been there for 20 years, started in 2005, grown, successful. Good material. If you're inclined to approve it, that'd be great. We'll be back to see you with a larger project. The ordinance does require screening. We are removing an existing hedgerow, which was planted by the applicant, years and years ago for the larger project. But it's so far from 313 to the project, you can't see it. While you got two-way traffic, you can't really crank your head around and look and try to see what's going on half a mile away because there's nothing to see. So we'd like you to approve it as submitted, and we'll be back to see you, in months to come on a larger project. Thank you.
Mr. Callahan, the idea is to then replace that screening if indeed you get the approval expansion for the next phase, the larger phase, correct?
It is. There will be berms and planting along 313 as part of the larger project.
What's on the eastern side? A lot of these references are coming from 313. Is there a buffer on that eastern edge?
Yeah, Ingleside Road, there's an existing forested buffer along the entire property line, and you can't see into it from that side.
Any questions? Can I get a proposal or a resolution?
Make sure you check on Mr. Tillman, too.
Oh, Ben, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
We also need to open for public comment.
Yeah, public comments next. Any public comment? Okay, there being none, can I get a resolution?
Yes. Madam Chair, be it resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Byler Materials LLC for concept plan approval for a 19-acre expansion of an existing major extraction operation in the agricultural zoning district, which is more particularly described in Planning and Zoning File SP number 24-04-0125, hereby finds the concept plan is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Queen Anne's County 2022 Comprehensive Plan. The concept plan is consistent with the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulation, and hereby grants concept plan approval subject to the following conditions. Proper controls and methods are maintained to minimize truck mud tracking or dust plumes and dry times with wind drift suppression. The facilities continue to be adequately designed and maintained to free dirt and debris from the wheels and undercarriage of trucks prior to entering Merrick Corner Road. All soil conservation district approvals are maintained. The hours of operation will be consistent with the approval of conditional use case number BOA-19-0 10-0049. Any changes require additional approvals. Haul truck shall adhere to the approved haul route as discussed and presented. The use of the dredge, loader, haul truck, and excavator during nighttime hours must adhere to the standoff distances outlined in the staff report and in the sound study dated December 6, 2024. Material storage piles cannot exceed 45 feet in height. The applicant submits as-built updates to the Board of Appeals and Department of Planning and Zoning yearly on the anniversary of Board Appeal approvals or on a schedule determined by the Board of Appeals. The applicant agrees to an annual inspection. All state permits are in place prior to final permitting by Queen Anne's County. Any legal documents are reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission attorney. Any future mining phases or changes to the end-use plan must return to the Planning Commission for a recommendation to the Board of Approvals for an amendment to the conditional use. Any and all. I did, a Board of Appeals, I didn't say that, okay. Board of Appeals for an amendment to the conditional use. Any and all financial sureties for reclamation, landscaping, stormwater management, and enforcement, et cetera, are in place before final permits are granted. There shall be no truck parking on Merrick Farm Road, no stacking or parking outside of the gate, no jake brakes, and no tailgate slamming either on-site or on the public road. The applicant shall post a sign with a notice regarding these restrictions. Any requirements by the Queen Anne's County Roads Department must be satisfactorily addressed. If the applicant fails to submit an application to the Department of Planning and Zoning for the Phase 5 expansion within 12 months of approval, densely planted evergreen trees must be installed in accordance with 18-1-95E8D along the western boundary of the LOD to provide screening. The vegetation shall be maintained to ensure the plantings remain alive and healthy during the operation period. The application shall provide a cash deposit, surety, bond, or letter of credit for the landscaping. Any outstanding documentation or comments stemming from agency reviews are addressed prior to the Board of Appeals submittal. So I think that we'll do that one and then the other.
Right, do I have a second?
Second.
During your discussion, because 18-1-95E contemplates the plan showing a proposed tree or berm screen location, and in this instance, they are removing the tree screen, have some discussion on why you find it appropriate for this project, or why you find it appropriate that they wouldn't need to add a screen, a tree screen.
Because it's far enough away from the main road, and because they plan on doing it when they come for their next expansion.
Yep. That would be sufficient.
Okay. Any more discussion? Any questions? Can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Got it. So moved.
Okay, and then we're going to move on. Be it resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Byler Materials LLC for a 19-acre expansion of an existing major extraction operation in the agricultural zoning district, which is more particularly described in Planning and Zoning File SP 24-04-0125, hereby forwards a favorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals under sections 18-114.c7 and 18-1-95E.
Any discussion? All in, pardon?
Second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Very much, thank you.
Very
Thank you
good.
very much.
Hey, Sean, I'll reach out to you later today.
Major site plan for Bay Bridge Marina.
Just on the whole time? Or is that off? Oh,
I'll reach out, Sean.
okay, great, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ready for me?
Happy New Year.
Are you again?
Me again.
Okay,
He's busy. See a lot of me in the next couple months.
good, go for it.
All right, thank you. Again, I'm Steve Johnson, Senior Planner of Planning and Zoning. We're here to discuss SP 24-07-0129 for Bay Bridge Marina LLLP, who is proposing to construct 14 duplex buildings totaling 28 dwelling units, and is requesting major site plan approval. A lot of this information may look very familiar to you, as two other portions of this project were on the agenda last month. So I'll get right into it. The project's located on Cat Island, south of Route 50, just to the southeast of the Bay Bridge. It's the first thing you see on the right as you're coming into Queen Anne's County from the western shore. More specifically, tax map 56, parcel 273, lots D1 through D28, which are shown here in blue, highlighted in yellow, are located at the end of Pier 1 Road and total 2.649 acres. Property zone airport protection and Cat Island Gateway. It's also located in the Chester-Stevensville growth area, the enterprise zone, and the priority funding area. The maximum residential density is 15% of the slips in the adjacent marina, which equates to 36 units. The applicant is proposing 28 units, again totaling 2.649 acres. Each of those units will have a permanent use of a slip. Per 18-1-108C, the project is required to address moderately priced dwelling units. Currently, the applicant will comply by providing fee in lieu of construction of the 3 required units. All APKIG dimensional and bulk standards are met with this proposal. The applicant is proposing a total of 1.79 acres of impervious. All 56 required parking spaces have been provided. There is additional parking available within the garages. This is a component of a unified development plan. Therefore, the additional parking spaces may not be used to meet surrounding non-residential use parking requirements. Sewer and water allocation was granted for the project on April 23rd of 24. Adequate public facilities for the project exist, subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant purchase all required water and sewer allocation and construct all necessary water and sewer infrastructure improvements. 2, pay all required impact fees. And 3, satisfactorily address outstanding comments for the site plan and subdivision review. The airport manager has supported the approval of this project, as there has been a determination made of no hazard to air navigation. Public amenities are provided for the residents of these duplexes. Consists of the concrete walkway along the marina, sidewalks, benches, dog waste containers, bike racks, and the statue there. Required landscaping is also a component of the Unified Development Plan. It does meet all Chapter 18 landscape requirements. Property is also located within the 100-year floodplain and must comply with the floodplain ordinance. The 300-foot shore buffer was reduced to 0 by the Planning Commission in August of '89. There was documentation included in your packets regarding this. Stormwater has been provided on site and has been reviewed and approved by the Department of Public Works. There are no steep slopes, streams, woodlands, or non-tidal wetlands or threatened endangered species on site. And the property is entirely located within a critical area with a designation of IDA, meaning forest conservation is not applicable, and all critical area requirements have been met with the proposal. Here's a look at the architecture. This is the front of the buildings. There's another view. Another one, this one shows the sides a little bit. This is the rear of the buildings facing the marina. These pictures are from a website associated with the development. While they're not completely accurate, they do give a good idea of how this may look after build out. As you can see, the duplexes are there to the top of your screen and to the right of your screen on this one. And with that, I'll try to take any questions, or I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Can you just give us just a brief overview of the fee in lieu of, and like where the funds from the fee in lieu of that moderately priced units, where are those funds directed?
Kelly, did you want to come up and say, Kelly?
I mean, I have knowledge of, but just like a little refresher course in that program.
So those fee in lieu,
You have to introduce yourself.
Kelly Huber, Queen Anne's County Department of Housing, and I'm the program administrator, and I deal with the MPDU program. And as far as the fee in lieu, that amount is put into an account, and we distribute that money to home buyers here in the county. This year so far, this fiscal year, we've distributed to 8 MPDU homeowners $50,000 loans for each of them. We also do for critical workforce, but this money would be allocated
Did you
in.
say, go back to the numbers. How many did you say you've?
We're on number 8. At the end
Oh,
of this
great,
month, we'll be
great.
at 8.
Okay.
So, and we're only halfway through the year. So each of them requested, I think except for one, was a little bit less than $50,000. So this allows people, instead of building these MPDU units, it allows them to go out and choose a place where they can be in a neighborhood where they want to be, where it's not dedicated or specified as a MPDU unit, and they can utilize this money and buy what they want.
And how was the fee calculated for each development or each project?
Very
Is there a-
complicated
Oh, then that's okay.
calculation.
But you have a computation based upon the size and the
It
scope
is, and it's in the code, and
Okay.
we went through and we've gone through, every year it will be changed, it could change possibly. But it's a very complicated computation and,
Oh, good. Thank you.
Right?
I appreciate that. I appreciate your giving that impact.
One more question. What are the terms of your loans? Just curious.
they are no interest and payment-free for the life of the loan, as long as someone remains in the home, and it's their primary residence. So once they go to sell, then they would pay back the $50,000. So it's a very nice $50,000.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if I may, I just want to confirm for the record that back in April of 2024, when the Planning Commission gave concept plan approval, at that time you considered the MPDU and you agreed to the agreement for paying the fee in lieu rather than providing the dwelling units.
Yes.
So that has already been decided.
Just
Yes.
wanted a refresher.
Just the concept in
Absolutely.
in general.
Really just wanted to make it clear for the record that you didn't have to vote on that again.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do we have, I guess you're next.
I'm next. Well, Mr. Johnson did most of the legwork. I just wanted to point out a couple things. As he mentioned, this is a part of a larger project. This is the last time we'll be before you, hopefully. It started with a minor subdivision to create the lot for the hotel, a major subdivision that you all reviewed in December of last year to create these duplex lots and commercial lots. And then you also reviewed the major site plan for the hotel in December, and then this concludes the overall project with the 28 duplex units. Just a couple other things, the sewer and water allocation, the deposit was paid, and it has also been paid in full. The public works agreement has been executed. A topic that we got into last month was the state highway improvements out at Pier 1 Road and Route 8. We got an email actually yesterday from Ken Fender, who's the district director for District 2 State Highway, and they have rescinded the requirement for any improvements associated with this project. They want to keep the requirement on the table for future projects, and we're fine with that. And that was actually spelled out in the APFS letter also. One other point, because this is a redevelopment project, we have stormwater management incorporated into this and also the hotel project, which before, under the old rules, when the marina was developed, if it had tidal discharge, there was no requirement for stormwater management. So we're treating for both the county requirements and the critical area requirements for the 10% pollutant reduction. So with that, I'll open it up if you guys have any questions.
Can you give me any insight on or a brief synopsis of your landscaping? Because I've had a couple inquiries about that, with particular attention to native
Right.
plants.
So to the extent possible, we have incorporated native plants. Wherever it's required by critical area, those have to be native. And then outside of that, we try to stick with native because they thrive more, but to be honest with you, they don't always provide the pop of color and things like that. So the landscape architect has taken a little bit of liberty to incorporate some of those where
But
they
the
can.
majority of it is
The majority of
native.
it is native, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so,
I'd like to ask a question.
questions for the,
Yes.
from the commissioners?
Mr. Petrie, you've probably spoken about this before, and I apologize, I can't remember. Why are you keeping those office buildings right in the middle of everything?
Sorry, say that again?
Why are you keeping the office buildings, I'm pointing at my screen?
Why am I keeping them?
Yeah, right there
Yeah.
in the center of everything.
Well, for one thing, my office is there. I like it there.
Oh, well, okay.
They're a good mixed-use entity.
Okay.
And part of those two offices also serves the marina. There's a big swimming pool there, a tiki bar. There are shower facilities, bathroom facilities, exercise facilities, a small lounge. So building 2 has a lot of those uses. Building 3 also has showers and pool equipment. But the offices are it's a great location for offices.
Okay.
So-
They just look, to me, they look a little out of place there, but it's not the end of the world. I was just curious.
We do have some space available, however, if you'd like to rent.
Just what Sylvester Farms needs. Waterfront office.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Public comment? Pretty quick. Okay, can I get a resolution?
Okay, Madam Chair, be it resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Bay Bridge Marina LLLP for major site plan approval for the construction of 14 duplex buildings totaling 28 residential dwelling units, and as more particularly described in Department of Planning and Zoning File SP number 24-07-0129, hereby finds that it does meet all requirements of Chapter 18, that it will not substantially increase traffic hazards or safety concerns due to traffic generated by the proposed use, the location or orientation of curb cuts, or the layout of internal circulation, does contain a layout of buildings, parking, roads, and utilities that does not substantially increase fire, health, or other public safety hazards, is adequately buffered and screened to minimize potential adverse impacts to neighboring properties and public rights-of-way, will not substantially increase stormwater drainage or pollution, will not have an unreasonably adverse effect upon property values in the vicinity of the site, will not adversely affect the public welfare, and will provide for public safety through compliance with the state fire code and with any applicable county or municipal fire codes, is compatible with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood, and is consistent with the purpose, goals, and objectives of the 2022 comprehensive plan, and hereby grants major site plan approval subject to the following conditions: any remaining edits and/or documents required by the Department of Public Works, Planning and Zoning, or any other reviewing agency be reviewed and approved. Any remaining edits and/or documents required by the Maryland Department of Transportation, State Highway Administration must be addressed. The architecture and overall site design must substantially reflect the documents provided. All required legal documents must be approved, signed, and recorded prior to obtaining final site plan signatures. All required bonds, sureties, review, and inspection fees must be submitted to the Department of Public Works and the Department of Planning and Zoning as appropriate. The applicant must provide an executed, moderately priced dwelling unit agreement prior to final site plan signature. The project must adhere to all applicable regulations established by the Maryland Aviation Administration and the Federal Aviation Administration. The conditions specified in the letter from the APFO administrator dated October 1, 2024 must be met, and the major subdivision must be approved and recorded prior to final site plan signatures.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? You have any questions, Ben?
No, I do not, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. So moved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate it. We're under construction. If anyone wants a tour, let me know.
Thanks, Kevin.
Do you want a break?
Get out of your way.
We'll take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, all right.
Well, let's bring the meeting back to order, please. Thank you. So next on the agenda is Four Oaks Farm Properties. Mr. Summers,
Yes,
once again, congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
promotion.
thanks. Yep, good morning, Doug Summers, now county planner with Queen Anne's County Planning and Zoning. We're here for 2411-0440, in which the applicant is proposing to amend major subdivision 0305020008 by modifying the approved landscape buffer. The applicant is requesting relief from planning the required landscape buffer under 18176D. The subject subdivision and property is located in the south central part of the county, about 3 miles south of Centerville. Tax map 60, parcel 1, lot 1 is located at 516 Poplar School Road near Centerville. Lot 1 is 90.423 acres, is entirely encumbered with non-contiguous open space, and is ag assessed. Property is zoned in an agricultural zoning district. In September 2005, the Planning Commission approved the Woods Heritage subdivision, which created 13 cluster lots, 2 slide lots, a building pad, and 90 acres of open space. County code in place at that time required a vegetative buffer to provide additional protections from adjacent ag uses. However, the code did not define a buffer width as it does presently. For this specific project, a 15-foot vegetative buffer was proposed and approved to meet the code requirements. This area presently is not planted and there's no natural growth there. This slide illustrates the southern portion of the approved buffer along 4 of the residential lots and how they are to be planted with a mix of tree sizes and species. The northern portion would be planted similarly. Hold on. 18176D states the PC may modify the requirements of the buffer yard code section if strict compliance would not be likely to protect adjacent ag lands from nuisance claims or complaints. This is the language the applicant is seeking relief under. And with that brief presentation, I can open it up to questions or turn it over to the applicant.
Could you repeat that last section you
Yeah,
talked
so
about?
the planning commission may modify the requirements of the buffer yard code section if strict compliance would not be likely to protect adjacent ag lands from nuisance claims or complaints.
Have any questions?
How many acres
Yes,
total?
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
Yep.
go ahead, Ben.
Ben?
Is this, I would like to ask Mr. Summers if this in any way could be considered a question of whether or not these buffers were grandfathered at 15 feet?
They were
Or in
not,
fact, simply that the law has changed?
they were not, they did not have a width at the time. It was pretty broad language. In 2012, there was an ordinance passed to not only require native species, but also expand the buffer width to 30 feet. And that's the last update on this section in the code.
Okay, and one other quick question. I'm still unclear as to why the applicant is requesting this.
I would have to defer to the applicant for his reasoning.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure we'll hear about that when we talk to the applicant. Any other questions from the commissioners?
How many total acres are we talking about in buffer?
I don't have an acreage. I did have,
Square feet or something? Is it on there? That's all right.
it's not, it's
Doesn't
over
appear to be
1,000
much.
linear feet. I don't have a specific.
sorry?
It's over 1,000 linear feet. I
So
just
you're
don't
talking
have.
15,000 square feet roughly, correct?
I don't know.
About a third of an acre. If I'm doing my arithmetic right.
I would agree it's in that ballpark.
Any other questions? Okay, so the applicant, please.
Thank you very much. Ryan Showalter on behalf of the applicant. And I think this is a very simple and straightforward request. This buffer was established to protect the agricultural activity from nuisance complaints by adjacent landowners. And landowners their homeowners purchased these lots either with homes constructed or as vacant lots, and have enjoyed the aesthetics of the large vista, open, uninterrupted vista across the agricultural field. So when discussion arose about the timing on planting this buffer, we actually heard from, I believe, all of the residents in this subdivision that they do not want to have that view interrupted. They don't want to be enclosed by a buffer. And also have heard from the farmer that they don't want to have trees planted that will encroach upon the agricultural activity. So the residential use and the agricultural activity have existed compatibly without conflict for a number of years. And I think you're going to hear from each of the affected landowners and from the farmer that no one wants to see this buffer planted. So it's not driven by cost savings or anything from a developer's perspective. It's really, we're just trying to be respectful of the home buyers in this community and implement their wishes, which is to maintain the open vista across the farm field rather than to have, a hedgerow of trees that will encroach upon their yard and encroach upon the agricultural activity. It's not a material cost impact to plant it or a cost savings to reduce it. It's really just driven by the preference of the neighborhood. So I think we have most of the affected homeowners present today. I think they all want to speak and also have the agricultural interest represented.
Okay. Council, if this was regulations since 2012, and they're trying to build now, wouldn't it be the same? How do you change?
As of right now, they are required to build the buffer with the 15-foot width. I think the mention of the code being 30 feet was to make you aware of if a similar subdivision came in today, the requirement would be the 30-foot width, so that you can consider waiving it, and the strict compliance now would be 30, and you're being asked to reduce from 15 to 0.
And that's doable? You can change the regulations?
So this project was previously approved in 2005 with the application of the 15-foot buffer being found to be adequate.
Okay.
But you apply the regulations that exist today, and so those regulations specifically authorize the planning commission to
But you didn't
modify.
build in 2005.
It was subdivided in 2005.
Okay.
The homes have been constructed more recently, but virtually all of the homes are all the lots? Yes. All the lots are
Okay, well,
approved today.
let's,
All but one.
I just want to, so Mr. Showalter, I think her question is, if today you were required to build the buffer, would it be the 15-foot or the 30-foot?
So if we were subdividing today, it would be a 30-foot buffer, but that same provision still exists. You could still modify or waive it if you found the buffer wasn't necessary to protect the agricultural activity from conflict.
okay.
Who is the farmer?
Ralph Whaley.
Is he here? Okay. Is he willing to put that in? Do you own that land, Ralph? Excuse me, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be talking to you, but who owns the land?
Mr. Cannon.
Well, Four Oaks Farms, it's the Gannon family, which were all descendants of the original Woods that owned that owned the property.
Does the landowners, the lot owners, do they have an HOA?
But apparently they're all here.
They're present. They
So
would like to speak to you.
From my perspective, you understand the dilemma here. They may be okay with this, but when they sell their lot, all right, and not discounting Mr. Whaley's opinion, but he rents the land, doesn't own the land. When you sell the farm or whatever, I can see future arguments arising from farming activities. You know, we had one of these come in here before, and there was a lot of back and forth on getting a provision like this put in place, because we had instances of people moving here and having issues with what farmers did for a living. And, you know, so without an HOA where everybody agrees that, you know, if you live here, we agree that we want this view for now and forever. And, you know, it makes it difficult for me to vote for this.
Well, so let's allow the homeowners to speak first,
Okay,
and then we'll address that comment
I'm
afterwards.
gonna try to keep an open mind, but we had one of these recently, and my views haven't changed.
Understood.
Okay? Yeah, I'd rather work with you than against you, to be perfectly honest, but, okay?
All right, we're going for public comment now. Robert Cruz,
Robert Cruz. I live at 218 Woodfield Court. So if you look at the map, up at the top, the second one on the right there.
I can bring it up for you.
So the one with the big spot, the second one on the right up at the top there. So to be honest with you, when we were first looking at Woods Heritage, we looked at a couple of different lots, and we settled on that particular lot because of the view looking out. You can see the two lakes, and I have two children that live with me. They love to, when we eat dinner, looking out our picture window to be able to see the lake, the wildlife, and all that. And I just don't want that messed up because we're putting trees up as a buffer. Like you would destroy my daughter's ideal of being able to see the wildlife that she loves, you know? And I just don't want that to happen. I don't want to crush, you know, what she loves about living there. Thank you.
okay, Carl Humphreys,
Hi, I'm Carl Humphreys. Live at the same lot, 218. I'm the same thing. You just want to take away the view we have, the beauty. We see everything, you know, when it's nice out. We see all the nature, the deer, and all the animals that come around. And if you put the buffer up, it's going to block everything, and it's just going to take away all that. That's, you know, like Rob said, that's one reason why we chose this lot, because of the beauty around it. It's just, to me, it doesn't make any sense to do that. I know, I love landscaping and all that, but it just, to me, it would destroy us to see all that, you know? I mean, in the evening, just picture it. You're sitting out there on the back porch or in the dining room, and when it's nice out in the evenings, when the sun starts going down, you see the deer come out of the woods. You can see them go across, and whatever other animals, the birds and the foxes and all that. And you said something about nuisances. There's no nuisance at all that we have, witnessed or anything. It's just nature. It's awesome. That's, like I said, that's one reason why we chose this lot, because it's absolutely gorgeous. And the peace and quiet there is perfect too. So that's about all I have to say.
Brian Tyler?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Brian Tyler, and I'm a lifelong resident of Queen Anne's County. I grew up in Graceville and currently reside in the Woods Heritage community referred to as 4 Oaks Farms properties in the agenda. My wife grew up on White Marsh Road, where she enjoyed a large bay window overlooking the fields, currently still worked by the Wilson family. As someone who grew up in Chester River Beach and Graceville, I've always appreciated the close-knit nature of our communities. Even though the views were limited on non-waterfront areas, we discovered the properties at Woods Heritage and knew that Lot 2, so we are at Poplar School Road, as listed there, so we will be the first house with this buffer. We knew that Lot 2 was the perfect place to build our custom home and raise our 3 children. The location offered precisely what we were looking for, a picturesque view of the fields and farmlands that define the character of Queen Anne's County. From our back porch, we enjoy an unobstructed view of soybeans and cornfields, as well as the grain silos, features that were once more prevalent in Queen Anne's County and are sadly becoming less common. We carefully selected this lot for its view, and it holds significant value for our family and our connection to the community's rural heritage. For these reasons, we are firmly opposed to the proposed landscape buffer and would like to express our support to urge the committee to consider the preservation of our cherished views and the agricultural landscapes that make Queen Anne's County unique. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Tom Thelen?
Good morning. Tom Thielen. We live at 125 Woodfield Court. We would be lot number 5 on the map there, which we would be pretty surrounded by this barrier. We were actually the first lot to go up. So we've been there approximately 3 years now. And the reason why my wife and I chose this community and that location is just, it's beautiful. It's open. Like my neighbor said, the wildlife there, you could see everything. You could literally be eating lunch, breakfast, whatever. Look out your window, you could see deer, fox, bald eagles. It's beautiful. The sunsets, sunrises, it's just gorgeous. That's why we picked that location. Granted, and with us being there the longest, we've gone through many seasons of the harvest, corn, beans. We have had 0 issues with anything. I can't even say we've had any debris where from a windy day or anything where it's like, oh, now we got to pick up this. Nothing. It's, when they decide to do what they have to do, they pick good days. They don't do it on windy days. They know what they're doing, and we haven't had any issues with that. It would just, I was born and raised Queen Anne's County my entire life, and this is our forever home. And I understand what you were saying, Mr. Professor, with the what you were saying in the future. And if there's something where, and I know us as neighbors talked about the HOA, if there was something where, to make you guys feel better, to sign up or start one, or if there was something we could put in place where we would sign in the future, make it known this is how it's going to be, I would pretty much guarantee that everyone would be on board with it. Like I said, we're a pretty tight community. We all talk. And there's not one person in this neighborhood that wants this barrier. It's just beautiful, and that's what Queen Anne's County is. You know, it's the nature. It's the way of life. So that's why we're here today, and hopefully you guys see our way. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. April Whaley?
Hi, I'm April Whaley. I am speaking for myself and my husband Ralph, who is the farmer. I can say that no, we do not own the land, but we have tilled this piece of ground and worked with JL for many, many, many years. We try to institute the best practices. We are very careful not to spread or to spray on windy days. We work with Nutrien, and they do the majority of our pesticide and other sprays such as that. We've had no issues with anybody's yards being destroyed. We use careful practice. Also, our son-in-law, Tom, he and our daughter live in lot number 5, and they chose it because of the view. I can say we've sat in the yard with them, we've played with the grandchildren in the backyard. It is gorgeous. And this proposed buffer, yes, it blocks wind, but what is it blocking? It's not blowing into the yards, it's blowing into our field. Because of the location, especially with this snowstorm, you'll see that it has blown the snow into the field. So not only is it beneficial to the homeowners, it's beneficial to us because it is providing a blanket for the ground, it is providing nutrients to our farmland. It is all positive. I think that although there may be other people who move in who would object to farming practices, basically, when you move to the Eastern Shore, you are moving there for the open views, for the beautiful farmland, for the less crowded, the less overgrown. You want the open view. So, thank you for hearing me today.
Okay, thank you. Andrew Lundgren?
Madam Chair, members, thank you very much for the time today. My name is Andrew Lundgren. I live at 111 Woodfield Court. That's lot 4 on the screen. I just wanted to echo not only the sentiments expressed by the homeowners, but also the sentiments expressed by the applicant, and specifically the applicant's mention of the standard for the decision today, which is the modification may be made if strict compliance would not be likely to protect adjacent agricultural lands from nuisance claims or complaints. I would respectfully submit that the consideration of future homeowners or other potential uses that are not present is not applicable to this standard. In particular, the record that we've established today through the homeowners, through the farmer, through the applicant, shows that there's probably zero chance of a nuisance claim or a complaint being made. And so for those reasons, I would submit that the standard for modification has been met today based upon the record evidence, and I would support the applicant's request for modification. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Milham?
Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Milham. I live at lot 7 at 223 Woodfield Court, which is the top left, and it is the most beautiful view I could have ever imagined. Every day I wake up, I'm grateful to be living there. I get to sit out on the back deck with my 8-month-old daughter. The other day I walked out and there's 32 deer standing out in the field, and it's just such a beautiful place to live. My direct neighbor right below me, they got stuck on the way here, or they would have had they left a voicemail, I believe. But I get to sit out there and enjoy, and I love every minute of living there. I'm from Pennsylvania, where I had a house behind me when I grew up, and you don't have that beauty. I moved here to get the beauty of having open area and enjoying the farmland around me. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Back there.
Back.
Hi, my name is Anthony Bordell, and I live on
Spell your last name, Anthony.
BORRADAILE.
Okay, and you live where?
I live in Poplar School Road. You can't see it on the map, but I'm a little bit. Yep, I'm in that little area right there of homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it at an opposite. We see their homes. That wasn't there before. It was farmland. It was nice. It was pretty. Now we see huge 2,000-3,000 square foot homes. And that barrier that was put in place for a reason. I'm not saying it was for privacy, but there was reasons. It was a law for a reason. So just saying take it away for the looks, I mean, I can say the same thing about the community. You know, I have to look at that every day driving down the road, a huge home at the end of the road that wasn't there before. So, you know, from that standpoint, I don't think just the views is a good enough reason to say, hey, strip the whole barrier that was in place years ago. And on top of that, if you zoom out again and look at the community, what do you see to the left of the community? See big farmland. What was that community before it was a community? It was farmland. So I wouldn't doubt that 20 years from now, that's going to be a community too. Why wouldn't it be? You see the area where you can enter and put it on the road. So future homeowners who do live there could have had a barrier, and you know, it's a coulda, woulda, shoulda type of thing, but that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about views, and when it comes down to it, it's in place for a reason. It's a law for a reason. There should be a barrier there. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other comment?
Yes. My name is Jake Skukumur. We're from lot number 3. We submitted a...
Can you, wait a minute, can you spell your last name?
Koekemoer.
Okay.
From lot 3 and submitted something, our opinion on paper, so we thought it will be read, but otherwise I can just give it to you now.
Okay.
We moved here from Denver just over a year ago, and we specifically picked that lot because of the view and the openness and everything that we get there. We're on that flag lot. Oh, yeah, you're showing
You
it
know
there.
that there was a planning proposed?
No, we didn't know there was
buffer?
no, we didn't know there was a buffer proposed. But we selected that specific lot because of those views that we are. And the view for us is important. I can understand what the previous person said, but for us, we bought that land specifically for the view, and we don't want anything changed, please. That's what I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Anything on Zoom? Okay. Any questions from the
I addressed a
commissioners?
couple of the comments.
Okay.
So first, with respect to conflict, agricultural conflict, I think it's important to note that the plat does have a note on it. It's on every single sheet of the plat that notes that there's no basis for recourse against the effects of any normal farming operations conducted in accordance with standard and acceptable best management practices. Normal agricultural effects include but are not limited to noise, odor, vibration, fumes, dust, spray drift, or glare. That right to farm language is on every sheet of the plat. A 15-foot buffer, probably it doesn't do much in terms of reducing those potential impacts anyway, but you know, the record is clear that among all of the folks who would be affected by this buffer, they have not had conflict and prefer to not have a visual barrier. I understood Mr.
Are you saying that we probably shouldn't even bother with having the buffer rule anyway then?
Well, I'm saying at 15 feet in
What it
width,
sounds
it doesn't
So
do
if it's not
much.
gonna do any good, then why have it?
Well, that's part of my argument.
That's
is
why
that
it was changed to 30.
The standard to waive it is if you find that it is not likely to protect adjacent agricultural lands from nuisance claims, you have the ability to waive it or modify it. The, Mr., probably mispronounced it, Bordella's comments, the buffer, if you look at the plat, or actually if you just look at your screen, the buffer is that green line. So that no portion of what we're asking you to modify or waive exists between Poplar School Road and the subdivision. It's only from the southwest sides of these lots and the agricultural land. So there's no elimination of any screening from the public road or from the houses across the street. And the other point I think that's important to address Mr. Sylvester's comment, if the commission would feel more comfortable waiving the planting of the buffer, we're willing to establish and leave in place an easement to allow a landowner to plant it. So if some homeowner moved in the future and wanted to plant the portion adjacent to their lot, we're willing to give them a 15-foot easement to plant it if they chose to. What we don't want to have to do is be obligated to plant it. So that would provide anyone the flexibility to make that decision to plant it in the future. It would take away 15 feet of farmland, but they could establish the buffer if that was their choice. I think the record's clear that all of the current homeowners would not choose to do so and don't want us to do so.
That would be their financial obligation, however. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's correct.
But you would be okay with a right-of-way?
Absolutely.
Or an easement, whatever the correct legal term is, but they would be on the hook for the financial side of that.
And they could plan it however they chose to do so. The last comment, which I think you understand, but that the rest of that field is designated as open space. That's part of this cluster subdivision. So it cannot and will never be subdivided in the future.
Question for the county. Doug, do you mind, is there, we're not talking about the eastern expanse of this development. It seems
No.
odd. Is that because there's stormwater infrastructure there?
Yeah, so there's stormwater features, plus that's all wetlands, pretty much over there.
That's not actively farmed?
No. Not based on any records or the previous plats or anything.
Can you expand on that? I'm looking at the cover sheet for the applicant, right just to the southeast of that stormwater management area, just off to the right of that cul-de-sac is that building pad site. Can you expand on what that is?
So they had enough density left to allow a house to be built within the larger lot one. And if they were to build a house, it would have to be within that footprint unless they amended where that was. So currently, there is no home on lot one. If there was to be one in the future, it would have to fall
it would be
That's the
limited
only-
to that building pad site off that, off the
Yeah,
one-
that's-
1 o'clock hour off the Woodrow Lane cul-de-sac?
Yes, it's the only unencumbered part of
Okay.
lot one.
And that was reserved so that if the farmland was all sold, someone who bought it, the
Farm
farmer
owner
buy
could
it,
put a house on it, right. I just want to get to the bottom of why we're not talking about wrapping this entire development versus just the 15-foot to the west.
Currently, there's no agricultural activity.
To the east, in all those wet soils. I can see the wet signatures on the map there, but I'm just curious to why that's not required.
It's all in CRP, Conservation Reserve.
So it
or
cannot
20
be
acres
farmed?
of it.
Are you suggesting it cannot be farmed? Or it just is not currently farmed?
It's not currently farmed, no. I guess the possibility exists it could be brought out of Conservation Reserve and be farmed. That possibility exists.
Yeah, the approved plat did have a crep area on there. The current one doesn't. I don't know what the terms of that easement were. Has it, if it's expired or if it's still active?
Still active.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
my concern here is that while everybody, it's quite plain, is happy with the arrangement of no buffer, that's not to say that future owners will or won't be. And I'm concerned that we're leaving ourselves open to, or we're vulnerable there. My other concern is that I can find no compelling legal reason to do this and am not comfortable overturning or setting aside the applicable codes that require the buffers. I would like to see if there's some sort of arrangement that could be made of a very formal nature, such as the easement or something of that nature, that would have a very clear understanding that future owners, both of the ag land and the residential areas, have a particular, I'd put exclusionary right to amend these buffers would be fine, but I see no such concrete proposal before us today. I would therefore not be in support of this change. Thank you.
Okay, so having said that,
Got one more question, if you don't mind, Ms.
ahead.
Dobson. Why, Doug, would why would this not be contiguous? Meaning there is no buffer on Woodfield Court between lots 5 and 6.
I don't, in looking at the old plat, and I don't know if Mr. Kirby can offer any background, I don't know why that's not connected. It seems that it should have been. It was approved not that way, but there's no background language in any of the staff reports or the plat or anything that explains why it was not connected.
you know,
Mr. Showalter?
You're talking about the open area between those two lots?
That's correct.
You're talking about the buffer along the road?
That's correct.
The old requirements didn't require you to buffer along the road. It was only to buffer along the lots themselves. So that's why it wasn't required along the right of way. Any lot that touched the agricultural use.
could you go up and introduce yourself and?
Jack Kirby with Kirby and Associates. I've prepared the plan that you're looking at before you, but the sole purpose of that 15-foot buffer back in the day in 2005, and I did a number of those subdivisions back then. So the county required the 15-foot buffer on any new cluster lot, as long as it wasn't already buffered by a hedgerow or trees or some sort of, or a crep area. Wasn't required back then if it wasn't being tilled at the time and there was no crep, and if it was in a crep area. So that's why the buffer is only around those particular lots to the west.
Okay.
And if, we were just discussing, if the planning commission's willing to waive the mandatory planting to address the concerns we've heard about the future, we'd be willing to establish a permanent easement that abuts all of the lots, so the east side and the area shown in green, 15 feet in width, and allow either the farmer or the affected homeowners to plant it. I'm happy to submit that to Ms. Ryan for review. If you wanted to make that a condition of your approval, we'd submit that to the county and make it run in both directions. So it would be available for the future owner of the farmland or the homeowners to make that election in the future, but would defer that question unless and until there's actually a conflict.
Do we set up a precedent if we, say, waive the need to plant the buffer?
So if you're going to waive it, you need to look at the specific location and activities of this development and the agricultural land to make that determination, so that going forward, when you have another project, you look at the site-specific location and activities that are occurring when you consider waiving. I don't know if that answered your question.
Couldn't have made that any more easy, could you?
I would submit one factor that you could consider is the fact that in this case, it's only 15 feet wide. If it was a 30 or 50 foot wide buffer, it may be more effective in preventing conflict. In this case, it's only 15 feet, and I think it's not likely to address, if there's conflict, address conflicts very, very effectively. And
So I like to say, just let me jump in. You've done a better job than the previous lawyer. And you guys as a group did a much better job than the previous people. That doesn't fix things, all right? So my question, Ms. Lawyer, or anybody, which is better? To say, okay, just give, because this is quicker, it's easier, I think. You guys provide the easement, or you guys provide an HOA agreement that says we're all agreeing to this.
So I want to add to that. I think by doing those things, even with the HOA agreement that we're all agreeing to it, that still doesn't help you make the finding that you're protecting the property from a nuisance or a potential nuisance complaint. So to your question about the precedent, this certainly could be used in a future application for a different property. But that is why you have to look at this specific request and these specific activities that are going on there to make the determination of the waiver. So if you find that because these properties were purchased and the farming activities have been occurring and were occurring during that time, because of the particular agricultural activities that occur on that property now and in the future, you don't find it to be a nuisance impact, I mean, that's what you have to figure out and make determinations on. It's not whether the property owners want it for their view or not, or are okay with it. You have to make the finding that because of the location, the lot sizes, the activities on the ag land, that this 15-foot buffer would not protect the agricultural land from a nuisance. It's not necessary to do so.
Amy?
Thank you. And I would just like to add a planning perspective to the legal interpretation that you're receiving. And that is that whatever standards you apply, whatever review and characteristics you apply, would be viewed in future to compare other agricultural activities. So if you see something that would be completely unique to this property, that wouldn't, in terms of the ag practices or the topography or the history of the subdivision, that would not be commensurately applicable to another agricultural operation under a certain condition, then you would really be setting a standard that is site-specific. But unless you can find that degree of specificity, then as the advice you've been given, this will be used for future decisions, and this will set that bar. So just putting it in a planning perspective, that's what you'll need to look at in this case, and then think about those same characteristics and the uniqueness in a future case where there's the potential for nuisance between an ag operation and a residential development. I hope that helped.
It fixed everything.
Like adding
Amy.
more mud to the
No,
water.
it did. It did. So let me ask the homeowners a question, if I may. Mr. Whaley doesn't use manure, to my best of my knowledge. How are you all going to be when the next farmer that tills that land, and there will be a next farmer, I'm pretty sure of it, decides he wants to use manure and he's chucking some big old lumps out in your yard? And you got to deal with the smell, of course, everything else.
Permission to speak again?
Well, you have to identify yourself again.
As I will. Brian Tyler, Lot 2. So this will affect me almost the least. I am at Poplar School Road, right along the side. I've got that little end down at the bottom. Growing up here, I know what Queen Anne's County can smell like. There's now production in town, and as a high school teacher, I have to explain to my kids why the town smells the way it does. They're doing everything they can. We're not concerned about the smell that could happen from agricultural. We moved to an agricultural area. We're from an agricultural area. Many of us have been through 2 or 3 seasons of planting. There was corn on my lot when I first bought that lot. That was harvested, and then soybean. I haven't had a single trouble even with mice coming in our garage at harvest time, which I fully expected. Being from Queen Anne's County, there is no concern. We smell it coming down the road. That's chicken. That's manure.
Understand this. Trees stop smell like masks stop the flu.
I agree, sir.
So, I'm not talking about the smell particularly. I'm talking about the physical chunking of I'm trying to think of nice words.
I love my
Of
grass.
things on your
I
grass.
spend a lot of time making sure my grass looks nice. If a farmer wishes to spread some of their valuable waste on my property, I will be greatly appreciative of it.
I understand. Thank you. You understand my position.
Tom Thielen. Hello again. Live on Lot 5. Yes, sir. I appreciate you bringing that up, and I totally understand. That's a good question or something to think about. Like you said, if another farmer comes along, if they want to change their operation, I'm to mimic my neighbor here. Born and raised in Queen Anne's County, and before I moved to this community, I actually was in another community where same situation. Another farm was right across the street, and they did actually use what you were saying. They didn't do it this way. It would not bother me. And like you said, if some of the debris or some happened to come in, it's good for the grass. But it would not bother me. So I just wanted to have that and let you guys know. Thank you.
I think another way to look at this that might be a little bit easier is to think about what a nuisance is, and a nuisance being an inconvenience or an annoyance. And the question being whether a 15-foot buffer, as established here and provided in those locations, will prevent any annoyance to those property owners. So the 15-foot tree probably isn't going to prevent manure or anything spraying onto the property. It probably isn't going to prevent any odor. But it might prevent dust particles from coming in. But that is the question that you are tasked with. Looks like that didn't help. Did it make it worse?
No, I'm not. I don't want to argue all day long. You know, that's counterproductive too.
Well, the last comment I had, Mr. Sylvester asked a question whether it's easier to do an easement or form an HOA. And I think it's clearly easier for us. We can grant an easement with one document that the county can review and accept. If you form a homeowners association, there are lots of other issues that have nothing to do with this question that require mortgagees to consent and everything else. So I would suggest the easement is clearly the easier approach.
Within that easement, would it prevent farming practices from occurring within that easement so that the farming practice would be set back further from the property line?
So, we can work through the terms, but the concept would be, we would establish an easement for a forested buffer that would allow agricultural activities to occur within it unless and until a homeowner elected to plant the buffer. And it would also allow if the farmer elected to do it at their expense and plant all of the buffer, it would allow the farmer to choose to do so otherwise. So it wouldn't prevent any activity from occurring until somebody exercised that. And in my mind, we'd have a notice provision. So a homeowner could send the landowner notice that, I, Lot 7, desire to establish the buffer. That would end agricultural activity in that buffer, and they could plant it, and it could be forest forever. Similarly, the farmer could send notice to all the homeowners that says, I'm going to plant the buffer. He would own it anyway, but.
Right. I guess my only thought would be that the board could find that the waiver here would be appropriate if that buffer were in place and there was no farming in that buffer, because that would prevent nuisance concerns.
It could be a nuisance because it would be overgrown.
It could be.
And
there are many things to.
That imposes on the homeowners the obligation to mow it or to provide weed control for that 15 feet, and it takes it out of agricultural production permanently.
Right, but if the concern was, by providing that 15-foot wide buffer, you are preventing anything from being thrown onto the property. If you set back the farming some, that could help with that concern. But again, for the board to consider, the commission.
All right, so yeah, I know I'm the one running my mouth here today.
No, but
All right,
I mean, well,
yeah,
it's
so no,
important.
I'm just, I'm trying to make everybody happy, and you can't make everybody happy. And but like I told you, I think you did a pretty good job. You guys did a pretty good job. I think that's that's the best solution that I can see right now, without totally disregarding the regulation and having this thing thrown up in this board's face every time somebody wants to come out and do a development that's not right in town. So I mean, if you guys would be amenable to that, I would be okay. I'm not going to It's not the end of the world for me.
No, and this might be hurting the cause even more, but you also have to look at this request. Of course, there are existing agricultural operations, and it sounds like the farmer is very sensitive in their operation, but that may not always be the case. And so
Right.
you have to take that into consideration as well.
Mr. Summers, is this,
You know. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You sure?
Yeah, no,
No, I didn't mean to step on you.
Go ahead, you have. the floor.
is this property in, by chance, the 2-mile solar array corridor? Just looking ahead, if this were to come before us, right, that would significantly change ag practices, and it would put, it would change the residential views, and it would require, not only because of solar array, but it would require a buffer.
It is.
It is within the solar array. So this could be a solar farm that's required to put up a buffer. It would require a buffer.
I would defer to Rob.
Yeah, this is required open space for subdivision.
Yes, we'll have every employee up here before long. Rob Gunter, Department of Planning and Zoning. While it is in the overlay district, as our current regulations exist, because it's open space, you can't put solar, utility solar within the open space or on a property even that contains open space.
That's only
even
on
if it's
that
out.
one area, right?
The whole property, even if the whole property wasn't in it, if the property has any preservation on it, we do not permit utility solar. Now, the state is likely going to change that, but as it exists today, that is not a concern. But they're also likely to change the
That's how
buffer
we got the
regulations too.
15 foot versus 30 feet.
The solar buffer is 50 feet. So it wouldn't be 15. But if the board reduces the 15 feet in this case because of whatever reasons, just moving forward, we know there are going to be more of these coming. Well, I don't know, I'm just going to make up some numbers. If it's 50 feet and they want to reduce it to 15, I'm not sure. The precedent would already be set that 15 isn't valid because of whatever. You need to take that decision into account with all of them. So just more to think about.
Okay, can I get a resolution? This is not looking good.
Well, resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by 4 Oak Farms Properties LLC for approval for the modification of a landscape buffer, and as more particularly described in Department of Planning and Zoning File Sub Pound 24-11-0440, hereby finds this amendment to the major subdivision is consistent with the 18-1-76.d of the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulations, and hereby grants amended major subdivision approval subject to the following conditions. Any remaining edits and/or documents required by the planning and zoning be reviewed and approved. The applicant submits an amended major subdivision plan for final approval. All required signatures are obtained, and that the applicants create a 15-foot buffer to possibly be planted in vegetation in the future should it be deemed necessary. Okay.
You want to repeat that last one?
I knew you were going to make me do that.
I believe what he's referring to is adding the condition for the 15-foot easement that would allow either the property, the ag owner or the residential property owner to plant the 15-foot wide buffer. But it would not be the burden of the developer property owner to do so.
Is that what I said?
That's what I heard.
And so, Mr. Sylvester, and the creation of the 15-foot easement, but you have not added, and it can't be farmed while the easement exists.
Because I didn't say that.
Right, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I didn't,
Yeah.
I specifically, they want to see farm, let them farm it. Let it keep the weed, let it keep it weed
Just
free.
wanted to confirm, clarify. Okay. I'll second that.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Ben?
No comments. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Can I get a vote? All in favor?
So, I
Any
don't,
opposed?
Opposed?
2 opposed?
I don't mean to interrupt, but going back to the precedent question, you need to make specific findings as to why this 15-foot buffer would not further protect from nuisance complaints, so that there is a standard going forward.
Can I just kind of speak off the cuff here?
Absolutely.
And then that'll be okay? I mean,
Yeah.
I look at it, all the existing homeowners have agreed that they don't want the buffer, right? And that's pretty compelling to me. The fact that they're there now, they live there now, and they want to see the farmland. That's the main thing. The current owner is agreeable to putting something up to deal with it in the future if it's necessary. So it's not done away with. It's just, if it's necessary, it'll be done. If it's not necessary, it won't be done. That's it.
And the installation of potentially the 15-foot wide tree buffer would not, because of the location of the farm and the residential properties, protect the residential properties from odor, dust, glare, things that are common nuisances.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So I think if you'd be willing to find that the installation in this particular instance of a 15-foot wide buffer would not protect those residential properties from common nuisances, which would be noise, odor, glare, because the existing agricultural operation has sensitive practices, and because the existing agricultural operation is already so close to the residential buffer that the 15-foot buffer is not necessary. You would have to make that finding.
May I also ask whether this would encompass all the lots or just the ones that it currently buffers, as was discussed previously?
We're happy to establish an easement on both sides as we represent it.
Because we don't know what terms would be within this easement now that it's just an easement. I mean, there's lots of considerations to consider that we wouldn't be able to establish unless it was during a review.
But one of the conditions is that a revised plat be presented, so that could be a condition of approval. I mean, if you want the planning commission to see the easement, we could certainly do that.
So there has been a motion and a second and a vote, but if you feel that this easement language is necessary to make that finding, that the buffer is not necessary to protect the agricultural land from a nuisance, you could make a motion to rescind that vote and then hold voting on this until said document is submitted and reviewed.
I would like to do that.
Do that, yeah. That's fine.
Yes. Can you make the motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to rescind the vote on this, Royal Four Oaks Farm Properties LLC, until such time as the documents are worked out and submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
You're in favor, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Great. Thank you for your time.
We'll see you again, I suspect.
Thank you all.
Welcome. Thank everyone for coming. All right, is there any other public comments? Can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.